Does it make sense to give up on the S Pen and anti-reflective display while having a slightly worse battery and camera and paying more? To answer this, I'm going to spend a full day with the Samsung Fold and Ultra. Hello everyone, this is Mo. Welcome to TechMo, and today we are going to compare the Galaxy Z Fold 7 versus the Galaxy S25 Ultra. I bought both of them with my own money. The S25 Ultra cost me around 1,100 euros, and I got the Fold for 1,800 euros after discounts. I started the day a bit late and went directly to my favorite Turkish cafe for brunch. I'll keep both phones connected to the same 5G network throughout the test, except for the first few minutes because for some reason the Fold didn't recognize my SIM card for half an hour. I took a picture of this food using the ultra-wide lens, and they looked more or less similar. Both phones have a 3x telephoto lens that can take similar quality pictures, but the S25 Ultra has an extra 5x telephoto lens, and since that lens is larger, the quality is better compared to the digital crop from the Z Fold 7. If we zoom in beyond 5x, the difference between the two becomes more noticeable. I usually don't talk about wobbling, but the Z Fold 7 is like a rocking chair, and with the new thinness of the device, you'll be better off placing it on the table with the cover screen facing down. The cover display of the Z Fold 7 is 6.5 inches, which is pretty nice, and for the first time, I do feel you can easily use it the whole day without too much compromise. Also, the larger and wider cover screen means the keyboard isn't cramped anymore, and you can type comfortably on it as well. The inner display is also now larger and better with less crease. It is now 8 inches, which is the size of a small tablet. They removed S Pen support on it though, which is a bit of a shame. It would be so nice to use the S Pen on such a large display. Also, typing on the inside display is a lovely experience. You need to use both hands, but in my experience, typing is much faster and more pleasant this way with fewer errors. The screen on the S25 Ultra is 6.9 inches. If you put it side by side with the Z Fold 7, it does seem like the Fold is almost twice the size of the Ultra. The S25 Ultra display is anti-reflective, which is something I've gotten very accustomed to over the past 2 years. Another big advantage of the Ultra is the more robust frame with titanium elements. The Fold, when folded, also feels very sturdy, even though there is almost no gap when folded anymore, which as a side note also makes it a bit harder to open. Dust can still get inside, so you should be more careful with it compared to the Ultra. It is kind of crazy how the Fold is now as thin as the S25 Ultra when folded, and when unfolded, it is crazy thin, even thinner than the Galaxy S25 Edge, but that also makes it feel a bit fragile, to be honest. I put both phones on Wi-Fi to play YouTube. You may notice that the S25 Ultra's brightness is a bit lower, and that's normal. In my experience, the auto brightness dims the screen on the Ultra slightly more than the other phones, most likely due to the anti-reflective properties of the display. It is now 2:30 in the afternoon, and the Fold is at 90%, while the Ultra is at 94% battery. I then took the underground metro to go to the park to meet Nina and shoot a video together. In the metro, I played one round of chess on each phone using Google Chrome, and the game definitely felt more pleasant to play on the Fold. Even though the forecast said it would be sunny, it started to rain. I took this video with the Z Fold 7, and it seems that on One UI 8, the lens shift is still not great. It is a bit choppy. The Fold is IP48 water and dust resistant, so you definitely don't need to worry about a bit of rain on the screen or a few droplets. So today Nina is helping instead of Tanya because Tanya is on vacation, and the good thing about having Nina around is that she does bring me cookies. I also gave the Z Fold 7 to Nina to use it for a bit, and she was impressed by how thin the device is. She was also really excited to use the keyboard like a Nintendo DS by folding the screen slightly and using it at 90 degrees angle.
First unfiltered reaction. It's crazy, look at that. It's like a normal phone, and then you're like, ooh, but wait. It can open Google Drive, I guess, and it can do this. Look at how thin that is. It's insane, like almost as big as the charger.
Now we have Nina here, it is time to compare the camera of the phones. Galaxy Z Fold 7 this year has the main sensor as the Galaxy S25 Ultra, which is a very welcome change, but the Galaxy S25 Ultra still has a better ultra-wide lens and also has a 5x telephoto lens that is lacking on the Galaxy Z Fold 7. With the main lens, you can't really tell a difference between the two, which isn't surprising since they both have the same chipset and processor. The same goes for the 3x telephoto lens, as they both use the same sensor size, so the images look nearly identical. At 5x zoom though, the S25 Ultra clearly has the upper hand. You get more background blur, and the image is noticeably sharper and higher in quality. At 10x zoom, the S25 Ultra maintains better optical quality, while the Fold tries to compensate with processing and over-sharpening the image. The Galaxy S25 Ultra also has a slightly better ultra-wide lens. If we look at the cookie here, it is sharper on the S25 Ultra, while the Fold's ultra-wide shots tend to be a bit softer. Both phones now support macro shots using the ultra-wide lens with autofocus, which is great if you're into macro photography. They also both support all the advanced camera features you would expect from a Galaxy flagship, including log video, which helps you get better color in post-processing. Looking at the log footage from the S25 Ultra after color grading, it does look nice. The white balance leans slightly towards magenta when applying Samsung's default lookup table. The Z Fold 7 produces warmer tones, but the great thing about log is that you can easily adjust the colors however you like. Of course, both phones also support portrait photography, where the background is artificially blurred for a more professional look. Even though I use the same settings on both phones, the processing is slightly different. The S25 Ultra leans more towards vivid and warmer tones, while the Fold has a slight magenta tint. But overall, they are definitely close enough that it is not easy to tell them apart, at least with the main lens. The Z Fold 7 does have a couple more features. For example, you can see yourself when someone is taking a picture of you, which is perfect if your partner always complains about how they look in the photos. You can also view the photos you just took on the other side of the screen. When zooming in, you can see a larger area on the side, which can help with framing. And of course, you can use the main camera as a selfie camera since the cover screen works as a viewfinder. Now we are checking the selfie camera and also the microphone quality, but on the Galaxy Z Fold 7, we are actually using the main camera because you can use the cover screen as a viewfinder. Now it's a little bit windy outside, so it's also good to check the microphone quality in this condition. And now we are actually using the main selfie camera on both phones. When we were done with the pictures, the Z Fold 7 was at 66% and the S25 Ultra was at 80%. I then used Google Maps on both phones to navigate back home, and once again I really appreciate the more real estate I get on the Z Fold 7. It is getting dark and I took the metro to get back home. I took this video with the ultra-wide lens on both phones. I took this picture on my way back home, and if I ever switch to the Fold, one thing that I will miss is the 100x zoom on the Galaxy Ultra and generally the zoom greater than 30x. Also, I met Onyx on the way back home. She is 1 year old and is a puppy my neighbors are raising. When she was not moving, the pictures turned out great, but she was jumping a lot, and as always, it is difficult to capture moving subjects without them being blurred on both Galaxies. When I get home, I put both phones to upload all the pics to Google Drive, and now the Fold is at 50%, while the Ultra is at 61% battery. Both phones are running on the Galaxy edition of the Snapdragon 8 Elite, which is the best chipset for Android phones right now. In this Geekbench test that I ran, they are more or less the same single-core and multi-core scores. The S25 Ultra gets a bit higher score though. The good news is that when I ran the benchmark, both phones stayed at the same battery temperature, so the Fold didn't get hot. I was curious if the Fold generally gets hot due to the thinner body, so I decided to make the phones talk to each other for half an hour in Google Meet on Wi-Fi. To my surprise, the S25 Ultra's battery temperature rose much higher than the Z Fold 7, 4 degrees Celsius and 7 degrees Fahrenheit to be exact, which was very surprising. The display temperature of both was the same though, and probably the Fold's battery temperature is lower due to where it is located. But the point is that the Fold doesn't get hotter than the S25 Ultra, which is great news. Also, I forgot to mention that the Fold has a side fingerprint scanner, which is reliable, and the S25 Ultra has an ultrasonic fingerprint scanner. It was dark outside, and I took this picture with the main camera, and not surprisingly, they both are the same quality. Also, with 5x zoom, the Fold is still doing okay, even though obviously the picture is not as good as the one on the S25 Ultra. After all the tests I've done, the Z Fold 7 now has 36% battery left, while the S25 Ultra has 49% battery left. In total, there were around 4 hours of screen on time under heavy use on a mix of 5G and Wi-Fi. So overall, if you get the Z Fold 7 compared to the S25 Ultra, you are going to get around 15% less battery life, which makes sense since the Fold's battery capacity is 4400 mAh compared to the 5000 mAh on the Ultra. So generally speaking, would it make sense to buy the Galaxy Z Fold 7 instead of the S25 Ultra? I would say for some people, yes, if you're into productivity and you really want that inside bigger screen for watching content or doing other tasks. I personally wouldn't do this change for one simple reason. I personally always use my S Pen every single day, and I prefer writing instead of just typing. And as you know, the Galaxy Z Fold 7 doesn't support S Pen anymore, and for that single reason, I would stay with the Galaxy S25 Ultra. If you enjoyed this video, I also did a comparison of Galaxy S25 Ultra versus the Galaxy Z Flip 7, which you can watch next. Thanks for tuning into Tech Mo, and I will see you in the next one.